Usually when we talk about like a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of precision.
Right, like it should be binary.
Exactly. It feels like engineering.
Yeah.
You fall, you break your arm, you go to the hospital, and the x-ray shows that jagged white line on the bone, and the doctor just points to the screen and says, well, there it is. There's the problem.
Yeah, it's very clean, it's highly visible, and honestly, it's very comforting for the patient.
It is.
We just inherently like things to be perfectly categorized so we can formulate a clear plan of attack, cast it, rest it, heal it.
Right, a linear plan.
Right.
But then you step into the world of hair loss, and suddenly it's like that x-ray machine is just totally broken.
Oh, completely.
The diagnostic landscape for losing your hair is incredibly murky. There is no single jagged line to point to.
Yeah.
No simple binary answer.
No, not at all. Because we are looking at a collision of, honestly, countless biological systems.
Right.
When we talk about thinning hair or baldness, we aren't looking at a single localized event happening in a vacuum on top of the head.
It's not just a scalp issue.
Exactly. We're looking at a real-time interaction between genetics, environmental toxicity, hormonal cascades, and remarkably even basic physics.
Which is wild. And that is our mission for you today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are taking a massive stack of research and unpacking the highly complex, deeply personal, and frankly heavily scientific world of reversing hair loss.
It's a big topic.
It is a massive topic. We have some truly fascinating source material guiding us today. We're looking at insights pulled directly from a recent deep dive on the Ultimate Human podcast featuring Gary Brecka, which also brings in some incredible clinical perspectives from facial and cosmetic surgeon Dr. Cameron Chestnut.
And setting the stakes here is vital because, the source material makes a crucial point right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Hair loss is a condition that extends far beneath the scalp. I mean, this profoundly affects self-esteem, psychological well-being, and just how a person interacts with the world.
It really does.
The psychological weight of watching your hair thin, it cannot be overstated.
No, it's a heavy burden for millions of people. So, okay, let's unpack this. Before we can talk about how to grow hair back, we have to understand exactly what is making it fall out in the first place.
Right. The root cause.
Literally the root cause, yeah. And looking at the research, it is so much more complicated than just like drawing a bad ticket in the genetic lottery.
Well, the genetic component is the foundation, right?
Yes.
Specifically, when we look at the primary driver of what is clinically called androgenic alopecia.
Which is male and female pattern baldness.
Exactly. And that primary driver is a hormone called DHT, or dihydrotestosterone.
Right. And I feel like anyone who has ever Googled, why is my hair falling out, has seen those three letters.
Oh, absolutely.
DHT is framed as the ultimate villain.
And the data really backs that up. A landmark study mentioned in our sources from the Journal of Integrative Dermatology Symposium Proceedings, it points out that androgenic alopecia is fundamentally linked to hormonal changes and genetic factors, with DHT acting as the heavy hitter.
Okay, so I want to break down the mechanics of that because people hear hormones and they tend to think of it as this invisible magic trick happening in the blood.
Right, like a cloud.
Yeah. What is DHT actually doing on a cellular level? Is it just floating around and like being toxic to the hair?
No, it's a very physical, microscopic mechanism. So DHT is a derivative of testosterone.
Yeah.
An enzyme in your body called 5-alpha reductase. It basically converts normal circulating testosterone into dihydrotestosterone.
Got it.
Now, in people who are genetically predisposed to hair loss, the hair follicles on their scalp are incredibly sensitive to this specific hormone.
So they're basically a magnet for it.
Essentially, yes. The DHT physically binds to androgen receptors located directly on the hair follicle itself.
So it docks onto the hair root. What actually happens once it attaches? Like, what's the damage?
Well, it acts as a signaling mechanism, but a highly destructive one.
Okay.
Once the DHT binds to the receptor, it alters the gene expression of the cells within the follicle. It signals the follicle to begin miniaturizing.
Miniaturizing. So it's shrinking.
Exactly. Every single hair on your body goes through a growth cycle. The anagen phase is the growth phase, and the telogen phase is the resting phase.
Right.
The bound DHT chemically forces the hair follicle to drastically shorten its growth phase.
Wow. So the hair doesn't even have time to grow before it's forced into resting and then just falling out.
That's exactly it. The growth phase gets shorter and shorter, and the physical hair shaft itself becomes thinner, weaker, and more brittle with every single cycle.
Until there's just nothing left.
Right. Eventually, the follicle completely shuts down and stops producing hair entirely. It is a very slow, relentless strangulation of the follicle.
Yeah, that paints a very clear biological picture. You have genetic predisposition. Your body produces that 5-alpha reductase enzyme. It creates DHT. The DHT binds to the follicle, and it shrinks until it dies.
That's the classical model, yes.
But I have to push back on this traditional model a bit, because if we look at the historical data, it feels like people today are struggling with hair loss much earlier in life and much more aggressively than previous generations.
It's true.
We are seeing men and women in their early 20s experiencing severe thinning. If it's just a static genetic code and a basic hormone, the timeline shouldn't be accelerating like that.
No, it shouldn't.
So is the modern world itself making us go bald faster?
That is the exact pivot the source material takes, and it really shifts the entire conversation.
Okay, good.
While DHT is the primary engine of pattern baldness, the environment we live in is basically stepping on the gas pedal.
Wow.
Our sources cite a very telling study from the Archives of Dermatological Research. This study specifically pointed out the significant measurable impact of environmental pollutants and psychological stress on hair loss.
Okay, let's start with the environmental pollutants. Are we talking about the air quality literally degrading the hair on our heads?
We are talking about oxidative stress. Think about the modern environment. The particulate matter in the air from smog, microplastics, the volatile organic compounds we are exposed to daily.
It's everywhere.
It is. And the scalp is an area of skin that is constantly exposed to the elements. When these pollutants interact with the scalp, they create free radicals.
Which are bad news.
Very bad news. These free radicals cause cellular damage, creating local inflammation that severely compromises the health of the hair follicle.
So you have DHT strangling the follicle from the inside and pollution damaging the skin from the outside.
Exactly. It's a two-front war.
But the psychological stress component mentioned in that study feels even more insidious to me.
Oh, it is.
Like, we know stress is bad for blood pressure and sleep.
Yeah.
Right. But how does, like, an impending deadline at work or financial anxiety make my hair fall out?
What's fascinating here is how this data acts as a clarion call for cleaner living and stress management, because it proves hair health is a direct physiological mirror of your nervous system.
Oh, mirror.
Yes. When you are under chronic psychological stress, your body is constantly bathing your system in cortisol and other stress hormones.
The fight or flight hormone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This shifts your autonomic nervous system out of the parasympathetic rest and digest state and locks it into the sympathetic fight or flight state.
So you're just stuck in survival mode all the time?
Right. And when your body genuinely believes it is fighting for survival every single day, it has to make brutal decisions about resource allocation.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Hair growth is a highly energy-intensive cellular process. To the human body, hair is a completely non-essential asset.
It doesn't keep you alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you are chronically stressed, your body systematically diverts blood flow, nutrients, and cellular energy away from hair production to prioritize your heart, your lungs, and your muscles.
It's like a city grid during a power shortage.
Yes.
Like, the hospital keeps its lights on, but the neon signs in the cosmetic district get shut off immediately.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
So we have this perfect storm of destruction. Genetics and DHT attacking the follicle, environmental toxins causing local inflammation, and psychological stress literally telling the body to stop funding the hair growth department.
Which brings us to one of the most unexpected theories explored in the source material.
Right, Dr. Chestnut stuff.
Exactly. We've mapped out the chemical and biological attacks. But Dr. Cameron Chestnut introduces a purely physical, mechanical force that is working against our hair follicles every second of the day.
Okay, when I was reviewing the notes, this concept blew my mind. We are talking about the effect of gravity.
Gravity. Yeah.
And my immediate reaction was to just reject it. I mean, if gravity pulls things down, why isn't my entire face sliding off my skull? Why does gravity specifically target the hair on the top of my head?
The skepticism totally makes sense until you examine the unique structural anatomy of the human scalp.
Okay.
Dr. Chestnut explores how gravity affects the scalp's dome, specifically focusing on the layer of tissue that lives beneath the skin but above the bone of the skull.
Okay, break down that anatomy for us, because clearly the scalp isn't just like skin tightly wrapped around a bowling ball.
Right. It is a complex, layered system. Beneath the skin of your scalp, there is a specialized layer of fatty tissue,
Okay.
and that sits on top of a tough, fibrous membrane called the galea aponeurotica.
Galea aponeurotica. Got it.
Now, unlike your face, which is packed with interconnected muscles that provide structural support and volume.
Right. For expressions and chewing.
Exactly. The very top dome of your scalp has virtually no muscle mass to support it.
Wow. So it's just skin, fat, and a fibrous membrane pulled incredibly tight over the curved bone.
Yes, and that tension is the key. Over years and years, the constant, unrelenting downward pull of gravity combined with that tight mechanical tension actually compresses and reduces the amount of fatty tissue that exists on the dome of the scalp.
It squeezes it out.
The tissue physically thins out and migrates downward.
But wait, why does the hair care if the fat underneath it is getting thinner? The hair grows out of the skin, not the fat.
Well, that is a very common misconception.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The superficial part of the hair shaft pushes through the skin, sure, but the base of the hair follicle, the dermal papilla, the root where the cells are actually dividing and growing,
Right.
it implants itself deep down into that fatty tissue layer.
Oh.
That fat layer is highly vascularized. It is packed with microscopic blood vessels. It is where the follicle goes to find nourishment, to tap into the blood supply, to literally root itself into the body.
Okay, let's try an analogy to make this mechanism concrete for everyone listening.
Go for it.
Imagine the top of your head is a hilltop, and that fatty tissue layer is the rich topsoil.
Oh, I like that.
Over decades, the gravity of the rain and the wind slowly erodes that topsoil, washing it down the sides of the hill.
Right.
Eventually, you are just left with hard, barren rock. If you have trees planted on that hill, your hair follicles, their roots suddenly have nothing to hold on to.
Exactly. The vascular irrigation system in the soil is gone.
Right. There are no nutrients left to draw from. Those trees are going to wither and fall over no matter how much you water the surface.
The topsoil analogy perfectly illustrates Dr. Chestnut's argument. Gravity mechanically erodes the fatty topsoil. The follicles lose their home and their vital nutrient supply network.
That is just, it's wild.
It is a profound paradigm shift. It means that even if you could perfectly block every single molecule of DHT in your body, and even if you had zero stress, if the fat pad on the dome of your skull is gone, the hair simply has nowhere to live.
It changes the problem from purely biochemistry to, like, structural engineering.
Absolutely.
And it leads us directly to the next phase of the investigation. If that topsoil is eroding and our follicles are struggling to survive in a physically harsher, highly stressed environment, we have to analyze the quality of the soil we do have left.
Right. The nutrition.
We need to look at the nutritional foundation.
Because you cannot build a durable structure without the proper raw material.
Yeah.
The source material highlights a core philosophy here. Nutrient deficiencies in the human body are the absolute starting place for the expression of disease and pathology.
That concept alone should give anyone pausing before buying, an expensive hair serum something to think about.
Definitely.
If the body lacks the basic building blocks, the complex biological cascades simply cannot happen.
They physically can't.
So what specific deficiencies does the American Journal of Clinical Dermatology link directly to hair loss?
The starting point is protein, specifically a lack of usable amino acids.
Right, because hair is essentially constructed of a protein called keratin.
Right, and keratin is synthesized from specific amino acids like cysteine and methionine.
Okay.
If your daily diet is deficient in high-quality proteins, or, and this is important, if your gut health is poor and you aren't properly breaking proteins down into those constituent amino acids, you literally lack the bricks to build the hair shaft. And as we discussed earlier with stress, hair is non-essential tissue. If amino acids are scarce, your liver and your heart get them first. The scalp gets nothing.
The body ruthlessly prioritizes.
It has to.
Okay, so what is the next major nutritional gap?
Vitamin D. And the source is very specific here, pointing to cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D3.
D3. We hear about D3 constantly for bone density and immune function. How does it dictate hair growth?
Vitamin D3 plays a critical direct role in the cycling of the hair follicle. Deep within the follicle, there are vitamin D receptors.
Oh, actual receptors just for vitamin D?
Yes. Research indicates that the activation of these receptors by D3 is biologically necessary to initiate the anagen growth phase.
So without D3, the follicle just stays stuck in the resting phase indefinitely.
The transition from resting back to growing is severely blunted, yes. And to consider modern society, we live indoors, we work in offices, we wear sunscreen.
We're never in the sun.
Right. A massive percentage of the population is clinical deficient in vitamin D3. Their follicles are essentially waiting for a chemical signal to start growing that never arrives.
Man, that connects right back to the modern environment argument.
Yeah.
We are physically depriving ourselves of the signal to grow hair.
Exactly.
What are the other foundational nutrients the sources point out?
They highlight vitamin E and essential fatty acids. A lack of these directly contributes to the thinning of the mane because they are critical for maintaining the lipid layer of the skin and scalp.
The lipid layer is like the natural oil barrier, right? The sebum.
Yes. Essential fatty acids like omega-3s and vitamin E act as powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatories.
Okay.
They keep the scalp tissue hydrated, pliable, and resistant to the oxidative stress from the pollutants we discussed earlier.
So they're a shield.
Without them, the scalp becomes dry, chronically inflamed, and highly inhospitable to cellular regeneration.
To bring it back to the topsoil analogy.
Yes.
The amino acids are the seeds you plant. The D3 is the sunlight signaling them to grow. And the fatty acids and vitamin E act as the fertilizer, keeping the ground fertile and protected.
That is a brilliant way to summarize it.
Before chasing a prescription, dialing in these specific nutritional baselines is the crucial first step.
It really is the biological ecosystem required for success.
But let's look at the reality.
Okay.
Let's say you have a listener who eats perfectly. They supplement D3, they get plenty of essential fatty acids, and they manage their stress. But they have the genetic predisposition. And that 5-alpha reductase enzyme is just relentlessly pumping out DHT.
It happens all the time.
This is the inflection point where millions of people rush to a dermatologist and ask for the standard medical intervention.
The pill.
The magic pill, right. But our sources suggest that fixing a localized problem on the scalp with a full-body systemic drug is a massive trap.
A trap with a very heavy biological cost. The traditional FDA-approved routes for medical hair restoration usually revolve around two medications, minoxidil and finasteride, which is often known by the brand name Propecia.
Okay, let's validate the science first. The sources don't claim these drugs are ineffective.
Oh, far from it. They have immense clinical backing.
Right.
Minoxidil works as a potent vasodilator. It opens up potassium channels and increases blood flow to the follicle, essentially forcing it into the growth phase.
And finasteride.
Finasteride takes the chemical approach. It is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor.
Okay.
It prevents your body from converting testosterone into DHT. By lowering the systemic DHT, you stop the hormone from binding to the hair shaft.
Okay, so if it successfully neutralizes the primary villain, where is the trap?
The danger lies entirely in the delivery mechanism.
How you take it.
Exactly. Taking a medication like finasteride orally means you are administering a systemic intervention.
Right.
You swallow a pill, it dissolves in your gastrointestinal tract, enters your bloodstream, and travels throughout your entire body to suppress DHT production everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes. You are altering your systemic hormonal profile to solve a localized cosmetic issue on the top of your head.
And the sources heavily detail the devastating drawbacks of that systemic disruption, particularly for men.
Yes, they do.
We are looking at a documented history of crushing overall hormone levels, an increased incidence of erectile dysfunction, severely reduced libido, and profound negative impacts on mood, emotional state, and cognitive function.
Because DHT is not just a mechanism for baldness.
Right.
It is a highly potent androgen that plays vital physiological roles throughout the male body. It is heavily involved in sexual function, libido, and maintaining the integrity of penile tissue.
Wow.
Furthermore, the 5-alpha reductase enzyme that the drug inhibits is also responsible for creating neurosteroids like allopregnanolone in the brain.
Wait, neurosteroids in the brain?
Yes, and these modulate GABA receptors and regulate your anxiety and mood.
So by swallowing a pill to stop your hair from falling out, you are simultaneously shutting down the chemical pathways in your brain that keep you feeling happy and calm.
You are systemically crushing vital biological functions. The risk of long-term sexual dysfunction and severe emotional blunting is real, and for many patients it persists even after they stop taking the medication.
That is terrifying. Taking systemic oral finasteride to save your hair follicles is it's like carpet bombing an entire forest just to kill one specific type of weed.
Wow.
Yes, the weed is gone. Your hair might look thicker, but you have annihilated the local ecosystem in the process. You've poisoned the water table, destroyed the wildlife, and burned the surrounding trees.
It's a massive overreaction by the body.
Exactly. Your hormones, your mood, and your libido are the collateral damage of a wildly disproportionate attack.
And the clinical community is becoming increasingly aware of how disproportionate that attack is.
Right.
Which is why the source material and the broader medical literature point toward a highly effective workaround.
Okay, what's the workaround?
You don't have to abandon the medication, but you must change the delivery system. The clinical preference now is going topical.
Applying it directly to the scalp.
Exactly.
The sources specifically mention a customized topical blend of ketoconazole, minoxidil, and finasteride. But, if I am rubbing the exact same chemical onto my head, why is it safer than swallowing it? Doesn't it just seep into my bloodstream anyway?
It comes down to serum concentration in the blood and the barrier function of the skin itself.
Okay.
When a compounding pharmacy creates a topical solution, they formulate it with specific molecular weights and liposomal delivery systems.
Liposomal, meaning it's delivered in fat.
Essentially, yes. It's designed to penetrate the outer layer of the skin and reach the depth of the hair follicle, but critically, to minimize how much of the drug actually passes through the skin into the systemic bloodstream.
Oh, I see. You are keeping the battlefield restricted strictly to the scalp.
Exactly. You use a fraction of the total milligrams compared to an oral dose.
That makes sense.
The ketoconazole to fight local fungal inflammation, the minoxidil to increase blood flow, and the finasteride to block the DHT, it goes to work exactly where the problem is localized.
Right.
Because a vastly lower amount gets into the serum concentration of your blood, it doesn't crush your systemic hormone levels.
Yeah, you protect the follicle locally without initiating the carpet bombing everywhere else.
Yes.
That feels like a massive revelation for anyone currently experiencing those dark side effects from oral medication.
It's a game changer for a lot of people.
So we've established a targeted topical defense. We are holding the line against DHT.
Right.
But if we want to play offense, if we want to wake up those dormant follicles and stimulate new growth without just layering on more pharmaceuticals, what does the cutting edge look like?
Well, we look toward energizing the cellular machinery of the scalp itself. And one of the most rigorously studied non-chemical interventions discussed is low-level laser therapy, specifically red light therapy.
No, this is everywhere now. The glowing red helmets, the laser combs.
No.
My instinct is always to view things like that as a gimmick. Is a warm red light really fundamentally altering human biology?
It absolutely is, and the science behind it is robust.
Really?
Yes. The clinical term is photobiomodulation. Based on extensive studies, including those in the American Journal of Clinical Dermatology, this relies on very specific wavelengths of light, typically in the 650 nanometer range.
And why that number?
At this exact wavelength, the light waves penetrate the skin of the scalp and reach the base of the hair follicles.
Okay, so the light hits the follicle. What happens when that specific wavelength hits the cell?
Well, within every cell you have mitochondria, right? The power plant's responsible for generating energy.
Sure.
Inside the mitochondria are light-absorbing molecules called chromophores, specifically an enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase.
Cytochrome C oxidase.
Right. When the red light hits this enzyme, it causes a physical displacement of nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide often builds up and chokes the cell when it's under stress.
Okay, so it displaces the nitric oxide, allowing oxygen back into the respiratory chain. Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. By knocking the nitric oxide out of the way, the cell can suddenly breathe again.
It breathes, and it immediately ramps up the production of ATP, which is the foundational energy currency of the cell.
So you are literally energizing the cellular activity from the inside out.
Yes. This surge in ATP production reduces local inflammation, vastly increases microcirculation of blood, and provides the follicle with the sheer cellular energy required to shift out of the resting phase and aggressively back into the growth phase.
It is essentially photosynthesis for human tissue.
That's exactly what it is.
And the source makes a very distinct point. This therapy shows incredible promise specifically for patients who respond poorly to conventional chemical treatments.
Right.
Like, if your body rejects minoxidil, or if you simply refuse to use synthetic compounds, shining a scientifically calibrated light on your head yields proven clinical hair regrowth.
Because it leverages the body's native cellular machinery without introducing a single foreign molecule. That leads me to the other non-synthetic route the sources briefly touch on. Natural botanicals.
Yes.
They mention studies from the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine regarding saw palmetto and pumpkin seed oil. Now, I see saw palmetto in every generic hair supplement on the shelf. What is the actual mechanism there?
Well, the sources are careful to state that more extensive, large-scale research is needed to match the data on pharmaceuticals.
Right, it's not a prescription drug.
Exactly. But the early clinical findings are very encouraging for combating hair loss naturally. The working theory centers around phytosterols, which are plant compounds found in saw palmetto and pumpkin seed oil.
Are they acting as, like, natural DHT blockers?
They appear to act as mild natural inhibitors of the 5-alpha reductase enzyme.
Okay.
If oral finasteride is, say, a concrete dam completely blocking a river, these botanicals act more like a natural filtration net.
That's a good comparison.
They slow down the conversion of testosterone to DHT and offer systemic anti-inflammatory benefits without the severe hormonal disruption. They are a gentler, complementary line of defense.
So we have a multi-layered protocol now. Nutrition for the raw materials, topical compounds for targeted defense, red light for cellular energy, and botanicals for gentle hormonal regulation.
It's a comprehensive approach.
But we have to address the severe cases.
Yeah.
What happens when the follicle is deeply dormant and the damage is extensive? The sources move past defense and into utilizing the extreme healing power of the human body itself. We're talking about PRP and exosomes.
This is the absolute cutting edge of biological and regenerative therapy.
Right.
The philosophy here is that the human body possesses staggering regenerative capabilities, but those capabilities are normally distributed throughout the entire system. What if we could extract those healing agents, concentrate them, and deploy them to one specific location?
Let's start with PRP, platelet-rich plasma. We hear about professional athletes using this to heal torn rotator cuffs or knee ligaments without surgery. How does injecting blood into a bald spot grow hair?
Because the cellular signaling required to heal a torn ligament is remarkably similar to the signaling required to revive a dying hair follicle.
Oh, wow.
The procedure starts with the standard blood draw from the patient's arm. That vial of whole blood is placed into a centrifuge, which spins it at incredibly high speeds to separate its components based on density.
So the heavy red blood cells sink to the bottom and the plasma rises.
Correct. But the target is the buffy coat right in the middle. The centrifuge isolates and massively concentrates the blood platelets.
Okay.
Platelets are the first responders of your immune system. When you cut your finger, platelets rush to the site, form a clot, and release tiny packets called alpha granules.
Alpha granules.
These granules contain massive amounts of growth factors like vascular endothelial growth factor or VEGF.
VEGF. Vascular endothelial, meaning it builds new blood vessels.
Precisely. By extracting your blood, concentrating the platelets to levels far above normal baseline, and re-injecting that serum directly into the scalp, you are flooding the dying hair follicles with VEGF and other regenerative signals.
So you're forcing blood flow.
Backed by the Dermatologic Surgery Journal, this massive localized dose forces angiogenesis, the creation of new blood vessels. It rebuilds the vascular network around the follicle, neutralizes inflammation, and commands the dormant cells to resume the anagen growth phase.
And the beauty of it is that it is entirely autologous.
Exactly.
It is your own biological material. You aren't rolling the dice on how your immune system will react to a synthetic drug because you are just moving your own healing agents from your arm to your head.
It is pure, concentrated, personalized, regenerative medicine.
But the sources don't stop at PRP.
Yeah.
They introduce a concept called exosomes.
Right.
If a patient is researching hair restoration today, exosomes are being marketed as the ultimate miracle cure. What exactly is an exosome? Because I know what a stem cell is, but an exosome sounds like something out of the sci-fi novel.
It does. But exosomes are the next evolution of regenerative medicine. They are derived from stem cells, but they are not live cells themselves.
Oh, they are alive.
No. They are extracellular vesicles. Think of them as the microscopic communication packets that stem cells release to talk to other cells.
Okay.
The most critical detail provided in the source is their scale. An exosome is roughly 1/1800th the size of a standard stem cell.
1/1800th the size. That scale is almost impossible to visualize.
It's tiny.
Why is being that tiny an advantage? Should we want the whole stem cell?
The advantage is profound because of the physical density of human tissue. A stem cell is a massive, complex biological machine.
Right.
If you inject a large, bulky stem cell into the tight, fibrotic, collagen-dense tissue of a balding scalp, it can get trapped. It has trouble migrating through the tissue to reach the target follicle.
It just gets stuck.
Exactly. Exosomes, due to their microscopic size and lipid bilayer outer shell, can diffuse and penetrate deeply through dense tissues with almost zero friction.
Okay, let's build an analogy here. If a stem cell is a massive, heavily loaded cargo ship, an exosome is a tiny, highly agile delivery drone that launches off the deck of that ship.
That's perfect.
If there's a village deep in the jungle that needs supplies, the cargo ship can't navigate up the narrow, winding river to reach it. It gets stuck at the coast.
Right.
But a swarm of thousands of delivery drones can launch from the ship, fly effortlessly over the dense jungle canopy, and drop their payloads exactly where they are needed.
That is exactly how paracrine signaling works. The exosome is the delivery drone, and the payload it carries is staggering.
What's in it?
The source notes that exosomes carry high molecular weight, hyaluronic acid, messenger RNA, and hundreds of specific growth factors.
And how do they deploy these drones? Is it a deep injection like PRP?
Actually, no. They are most effectively applied topically in conjunction with a procedure called microneedling.
Oh, the rollers with the tiny needles.
Yes. A specialized device creates thousands of microscopic controlled punctures in the very top layer of the scalp. The exosome serum is then applied over the area.
Okay.
Because the drones are so incredibly small, they slip seamlessly down into those microchannels, bypassing the skin barrier and deploying their regenerative payload directly into the follicular environment.
The elegance of that biology is just staggering.
It really is.
But we have to circle back to the harsh reality we discussed in Section 2. We have to connect this high-tech drone delivery back to Dr. Chestnut's gravity theory.
Ah, the topsoil.
Exactly. If the fat pad on the skull is gone, if the topsoil is completely eroded away, then sending in PRP and exosome drones is pointless.
Completely pointless.
You can drop all the growth factors and molecular weight hyaluronic acid you want onto a barren, rocky skull, and nothing is going to take root. How do we rebuild the foundation?
This is where we reach the ultimate reconstruction. This is Dr. Chestnut's highly unconventional, genuinely revolutionary surgical therapy. If the structural fat pad is physically gone, we cannot rely on chemical serums or light waves. We have to engage in structural tissue engineering.
We have to manually replace the missing topsoil.
Yes, through an autologous fat and stem cell transplant.
Walk us through the mechanics of this, because it sounds intense, but logically it makes perfect sense.
It begins with the extraction phase. Dr. Chestnut uses a specialized microliposuction technique to extract very small amounts of fat from the patient's own body.
Where from?
Specifically targeting the abdominal area and the flanks, what we commonly call the love handles.
Okay, is he targeting the flanks just because that's where the average person has the most accessible fat to spare?
It is entirely strategic. Evidence from embryological and stem cell research shows that the adipose tissue, the fat in the abdomen and flanks, is incredibly rich in active, robust stem cells.
Oh, wow.
Specifically called adipose-derived stem cells, or ADSCs.
So it isn't just filler material. It is the highest quality, most regenerative soil available in the human body.
Exactly. And again, the autologous advantage is paramount here. You are utilizing the patient's own fat, loaded with their own stem cells and their unique DNA.
Right.
This completely circumvents the severe risks of using synthetic fillers, animal-derived products, or someone else's biological material. The body recognizes the transplanted tissue as its own, eliminating the risk of immune rejection.
So he extracts this stem cell-dense fat, he purifies it, and then he has to get it back into the scalp. Where does it actually go? How do you maneuver fat back under a tight scalp without it just looking, lumpy?
This is where the surgical precision comes in. The extracted, purified fat is carefully reinserted beneath the tight scalp skin, but critically, it is placed directly above the skull bone.
Okay.
The source specifically names this target layer, the periosteum. The periosteum is the dense connective tissue enveloping the bones.
So he is injecting a new living layer of fat right onto the skull.
He is permanently replacing the lost fatty tissue. He is surgically rebuilding the eroded topsoil.
Wow.
This creates an immediate, profound therapeutic effect. The dormant hair follicles, which were being crushed against the bone, suddenly have a soft, highly vascularized, stem cell-heavy environment to live in again.
That's incredible.
The injected stem cells secrete continuous growth factors, establishing a permanent new blood supply. And according to the clinical outcomes detailed in the sources, this method is showing tremendous success in permanently reversing severe hair loss.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shatters the traditional paradigm of how we treat baldness.
It really does.
This surgical intervention isn't just a cosmetic trick. It's not a hair transplant where you are just moving hair follicles from the back of the head to the front to hide a bald spot.
No, it's not masking the issue.
It is literally structural tissue engineering. It is restoring the body's natural, youthful anatomical architecture. You are fixing the degraded environment so the body can do what it naturally knows how to do, which is grow hair.
You are restoring the fundamental anatomical foundation. And here's the synergistic brilliance of it.
Yeah.
Once that structural foundation is rebuilt, all the other therapies we discussed today, the topical defenses, the red light therapy, the nutritional optimization, they all suddenly have a fertile, responsive environment to work within. They compound upon each other.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a massive amount of territory today, synthesizing the insights from Gary Brecka's Ultimate Human podcast and Dr. Cameron Chestnut's Clinical Innovations.
We really have.
If we look at the source material holistically, it really breaks down the fight against hair loss into three distinct, interconnected prongs.
The first prong is the absolute biological foundation, nutrition and internal supplementation.
Right.
Before anything else, you must ensure your body has the raw materials, the high-quality amino acids, the vitamin D3 to initiate the growth phase, and the essential fatty acids to maintain the cellular environment.
If you don't have the bricks, you cannot build the wall, no matter what blueprints you have. The second prong focuses on non-nutritional external actions. These are your targeted defenses and stimulators.
Yes.
Utilizing customized liposomal topical compounds to block DHT locally without initiating systemic hormonal warfare. And deploying photobiomodulation red light therapy to literally jumpstart the mitochondria in the follicle.
And the third prong is the absolute frontier of science, biological and regenerative therapies.
The really cool stuff.
This is harnessing the body's own localized healing mechanisms through concentrated PRP, deploying the microscopic paracrine signaling of exosome delivery drones, and in advanced structural degradation, utilizing autologous stem cell fat transplants to fundamentally engineer a new scalp architecture.
It is a profound, incredibly hopeful arsenal of tools. But we owe it to anyone listening to provide a holistic reality check.
We do. Tackling hair loss is not an overnight cosmetic fix.
It's not.
It is a biological journey that requires patience, immense persistence, and personalized guidance from qualified healthcare professionals. You cannot simply cherry-pick one of these interventions at random, ignore your toxic environment or chronic stress, and expect a miracle.
Right. You can't just buy a red light helmet and keep eating fast food while stressed out of your mind.
Exactly. This spans from age-old wisdom regarding diet and nervous system regulation all the way to the absolute bleeding edge of tissue engineering. You have to protect your hair by fundamentally nurturing your overall whole body well-being.
And that brings us perfectly back to where we started. We talked at the very beginning about how a medical diagnosis like a broken bone is a clean, simple X-ray.
The jagged white line?
Right. Diagnosing and treating hair loss is incredibly muddy because it is intrinsically tied to everything you do, the air you breathe, the food you digest, and the stress you carry. The whole system is inextricably connected.
You cannot separate the follicle from the entire human organism.
Which leaves me with a final, provocative thought for you to mull over today as we wrap up. Something that really struck me as we mapped out all these interconnected mechanisms.
Okay, let's hear it.
If our environmental pollutants, our chronic psychological stress levels, and our degraded cellular nutrition are all directly dictating the timeline and severity of our hair loss, is human baldness becoming less of a simple genetic inevitability and more of a real-time, visible biological readout of the health of our modern society?
Oh, wow. If the murky water on our scalps is just a reflection of the toxic environment and the chronic stress of modern lifestyles, fixing the hair is really just the first step in fixing how we live.
A physical manifestation of modern life. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned as much as we did and that you feel empowered to look at this complex issue through an entirely new, highly scientific lens. Take care of your topsoil, protect your internal ecosystem, and we will see you on the next deep dive.